All right, good day, everyone, and glad to be joined with you in this learning today. We're still talking and dealing with relationships and managing them. Last week, we dealt with how to attract your soulmate, but attracting a soulmate is one thing. However, living together is the issue. Um, Attractions happen. People even without a lot of effort, have become attracted to each other. While what we taught you last week would help attract the right people, but attraction is not as complicated as now living together. Two people who have had different lives, who have built a pattern of existence, coming together and now forming one union and live with each other and stay together. That is a lot more complicated, and most married people will tell you that, you know you I mean, I could give a whole list of complications, from something as simple as being the only one that stays on the bed, growing up, and particularly as an adult, and then now you have to share that bed with someone every single night. While that sounds to a lot of people like, yeah, I would like that, you find out that when you now really have it, you see how complicated that is. Maybe the person snores. Maybe the person makes a lot of noise in the washroom when they are using the washroom. Maybe the person has one habit that just keeps eating away at you. There's always a lot of complications when two people come together and now decide to make a life. And that's why the Bible says love covers a multitude of sins. Their love for each other oftentimes will provide a buffer, will provide a cover for those things that would have put them off, and it still does put them off, but they are able to manage it because they love each other. But what we've learned is that over a period of time, those things begin to surface again, because the feeling of love, the emotion of love, is not usually constant. The commitment of love can be constant and should be constant. Our parents are committed to their children constantly, but they did not always feel the same way about them. If your child comes back home and did not do well in the exams, you don't feel good about that. Your commitment is the same, your feelings, your emotions. You might even be angry with the person. Particularly if you have been telling the person, read, 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 and the person was like, no, I've covered it, and then came back home and failed the exam. You are hurt, you are angry, but your commitment is the same. Your emotions are different at that moment. And when the child comes home and says, I was the first in class, your commitment is the same. At that moment, your emotions are high for that person. The same thing in any love relationship. Commitment is meant to remain the same. You commit. It's a decision. I will love this person. Emotions will fluctuate. All right. So those moments when emotions are down or lower, the feeling of love is not so strong. You find out that all of these things begin to rise up. It's interesting to note that 50% of marriages in the world as a whole, that's the current statistic, ends in divorce. In some places, it's even higher. All right, but when you put the whole world together, it comes about 50%. But in some places, it's even higher. In some places, people go into marriage expecting that it will not last, expecting that they won't be there. They just let me enjoy it while it's here, and then I will, when it's over, we move on. All right. So let's talk about this. So I listened to someone yesterday or 2 days ago. I think it was yesterday, and the person was being interviewed, and she has a stand. She believes that divorce should be made illegal. Now, I don't agree with her, but she has a point. Let me explain. She believes that divorce should be made illegal. And they asked her why. She said, If you want to just sleep around, go ahead, sleep around. Don't marry, sleep around and have sex and do all of those things. But if you decide to marry, there should be a law that says if you decide to marry, it's forever. If you divorce, it's illegal. And while like I said, I don't agree, there are situations and circumstances that even I would definitely support a divorce. But there is now a general tendency to abandon a marriage for another one once this one is not working, instead of finding how to repair it, how to fix it. There's now a growing tendency, let me say it that way, a growing tendency to simply abandon what is and move to something else, look for something new. Marriage has become, for a lot of people, just something you use, and when it's no longer appealing, you drop it. And that is coming from a tendency to be focused on me and myself alone that has become rampant in the world. Many have become so self-absorbed. So things like the children are not considered. The impact of that divorce on the kids are not considered. The impact on that divorce on the mission are not considered. The assignment, the work that God has called us to do on this earth and representing Jesus. God is not even considered in the equation. You understand? He said, I hate divorce. It's not even considered. Now, I'm going to keep saying this every time I talk about, repairing marriages, that I'm not anti-divorce. There are situations, maybe there is domestic abuse, or there is flagrant infidelity, or one of the partners, even though you want it to work, you don't want divorce. If the other person is bent on leaving, there's nothing you can do. So it will be wrong for us to look at anyone who has been divorced and feel they did something wrong. One, it could be the other person that wanted to leave. Two, there could have been domestic abuse, one way or the other, that necessitated their leaving, and all things considered, including the children, it's better for them to be separate, because even with the kids brought into the equation, being together and watching dad beat up mom or mom beat up dad is not good for them. All right. So there are cases where even when you consider the children and consider the ministry, consider mission, consider other things outside of you, it may be best to walk away. But if a marriage can be fixed, then it should be the focus of the couple to fix that marriage. Somebody asked me, Noel, you have been married for 21 years. What would you say is, what makes people stay together? And I told him, I said, when you build a house and you live in that house, if you built it, not rented, built. Why is it that people that build a house live there for, decades? Those people that build a house, they live there for decades. They may go to a friend's house. The friend's house may be better than their own. They come back to their home. This is the one they built. So it's as simple as that. It's not that we have not had trials, challenges. We have ongoing. We have, but it's just, this is the house we built. All right. This is the house. This is our own house. All right. So we're not leaving. We're not walking away from it. Now, it takes two. Like I said, if my wife decides tomorrow that she's done, the laws of the land allow her to walk away. It does not mean that I haven't tried, and I should not be judged for that negatively. And if I decide to walk away from my wife, she should not be judged negatively. But if, like I said, if it can be fixed, then let it be fixed. So today, I want to talk about repairing relationships. And you can begin to practice these things even before marriage. When you are dating someone, you will have, that's what courtship is. I asked the Lord many years ago, why courtship? I didn't find a lot of scriptures that talk about courtship. I find scriptures addressing married people. I find scriptures about he that findeth a wife. And so scriptures about attracting the right person and finding the right person, and then marriage. But in between finding the right person and marriage, traditionally and culturally, in most parts of the world, we have developed this period where we are just hanging out, getting to know each other, and which wisdom seems to suggest should be so. And so I said, God, if that is the case, why is it that it's not in the Bible so pronounced? Courtship, I mean. And not that there is no mention of it. I'm just talking about there's no teaching about what you should do in courtship. And so as a teacher of the word, I said, God, what is it about? And God said to me, it's the simple principle that if you want to, Jesus said, and who among you who wants to build a great house will not first sit down and count the cost. So he said, courtship is the counting of the cost. It's the time. And why I said that is because of what I'm teaching today. Some people may feel like because I'm not married yet, doesn't apply to me. But courtship is the time to create a model of marriage without the sex. Create a model of marriage without sexual intimacy. So create a model of marriage and see how it feels. Nobody who builds a great house just goes to the site and starts building. You first sit down and count the cost. So I'm a builder by training. Before we build, if it's a great house, now if you are building a hut or you're building a bungalow, you may not do this. But if it's a great house like a skyscraper, multiple stories, where you have all these 20 stories, 50 stories, floors, I mean, you will not just go and build. What do? You create a model. You do a design, you create a model. It's not the building, so you can't live in it. That's very critical. So when you start allowing sexual intimacy in a courtship, you're trying to live in the model. You're trying to live in the model. And you know what it will take for a human being to squeeze himself into a model of a building. That's not it's not even as big as the human being. Not as tall in most cases as it's not as tall as a human being. So you will have to reduce yourself and reduce your destiny to fit into a model. And so you don't try to live in the model. The model is to help you see how the main thing will look like. And the model is to help you figure out what needs to be adjusted in order to be able to have a great and good main thing. My wife and I courted for 7 years, and I think that helped us. While I don't encourage extremely long courtship because of the tendency for infidelity, but I think it helps. So together, we've been together now for 28 years, 7 years of knowing her and committing to each other, and then 21 years of being actually legally married. So we didn't sleep with each other before our marriage. So, but a lot of people, I know from experience now dealing with other people that 7 years is a long time. So it's not like I'm recommending 7 years. But I'm saying to you that period of courtship allows you to work out some kinks, work out some things in the marriage, in the union for when you're going to get married. So all of that is said so that those of you who feel like, oh, this does not apply to me because I'm not yet married, you need to know these things and use them in the model. Use them in the model. And because you're going to have disagreements in that model, in the courtship or when you're dating, you're going to have disagreement with somebody. Try and fix it. Don't jump out immediately. Try and fix it if it can be fixed. So only certain things should make you say, you know what, you and I don't work. And if the person is, does not share the same values that you do, and is not trying to, if the person is, is not compatible, then you can scrub that and start something else. I'm talking about courtship now. I'm talking about dating. You can scrub that and start something else. And it's better that you destroy a model and rebuild another, do a new model, than to destroy the main building. always better, but it's important also to try and fix the model. That's the whole idea. Try and fix. Okay, something is not the way it should be. Try and fix it before you go for discarding the whole model. Okay. All right. So, Father, in the name of Jesus, we ask that revelation knowledge will flow freely through me to your people. We ask that revelation knowledge will dawn upon us. Let words and thoughts from heaven flow to all of us as we listen. Let signs and wonders be done and heal and fix relationships in the house. In Jesus' mighty and precious name we pray. And everyone said, Amen. So I'm going to run through this. This is courtesy of one of my mentors, Creflo Dollar. He did a teaching along this line that really, really impacted me, that really helped me in my own marriage. And I want to share it with you. All right. So very quickly, signs of a broken marriage or a broken relationship. I'm going to keep using the word relationship. Signs of a broken relationship. Number one, lack of communication. Lack of communication. If you are no longer willing to talk to each other, it's broken. Something is broken somewhere. Relationship is no longer a priority. If you are no longer prioritizing your being together, for instance, you get home, you're not looking forward to that hangout with the person. See, some things are broken, but they have not been destroyed. So people are still carrying on, and instead of fixing it while it's broken, they carry on until it's destroyed and smashed and no longer, and now very, very extremely difficult to fix. But if you will note these signs, you know now something is broken here. We need to fix that. It's easier then to fix when something just barely broken. All right. So when you find out that talking to your mate is not exciting, so you guys don't do it often. Lack of communication. If you find out that in your mind the union with this person is not priority. You know, when you were courting, when you were dating, you know how it was the thing on your mind. It was the thing. Now it wasn't the only thing on your mind, but it was priority to you. Somebody mentioned her name or his name and said something about him, you turned. You placed it high up there. Well, is your relationship still a priority? Physical or emotional withdrawal. When you guys are no longer being physically intimate or withdrawing from it, when it's time or when you need to, you pull back. If there's physical withdrawal or emotional withdrawal, it's a sign of a broken relationship. Feeling of resentment, when you feel like the person, you feel like a constant resentment towards that person. So the person cracks a joke they used to crack before and you would laugh and you just smile, just, courtesy smile. Or the person gives an example, maybe teaching like I do, and I say, oh, sweetheart, remember when we did this and this and that? And she's like, Sometimes it's that there's a deep-seated resentment. So even though she remembers, she's not willing to accord you that moment, because just like any other resentment, I agree, but I'm not going to say so, All right. So a feeling of resentment, you can start seeing them in the way the person reacts or the way you react to that person. But everybody who is resenting someone, inside of you. This honesty and trust issues, when you no longer are able to trust the person, or you have issues with dishonesty, the person, maybe financial, maybe fidelity, you're no longer able to know that this person is going out and it's going to be okay. Those are trust issues. Those are, or maybe the person has handling of finances, inflating figures and all that. When you find dishonesty or you find trust becoming difficult, you have a sign of a broken relationship. Purposeful distancing of oneself. from affection or intimate connection. When you start feeling like, the person walks into the room and you pretend to be asleep because you don't want to have a conversation, you're purposely keeping yourself. You travel and you don't want to go back home. You go out and you find yourself waiting until the person has gone to sleep before you come back home. Whenever you find yourself purposely trying to keep a distance, just know there's a broken relationship here. All right, purposely trying to keep a distance. Now, sometimes distance happens, but when it's purposeful, from either affection, or intimacy. So when intimacy is not there, broken relationship. But when you find yourself purposely also pulling away from such intimacy, then you have also signs of a broken relationship. Treating each other with disrespect is a sign of a broken relationship. Hey, you are stupid. That was a very stupid thing to say. That's a very stupid thing to do. All right. Whether it's in courtship or it's in marriage, if somebody constantly talks to you like that, are you stupid? Are you crazy? What's wrong with you? Are you normal? It's a sign of a broken relationship. Okay. So there may be other signs, but chief among them will be that feeling of resentment. I particularly like that, and the distancing of oneself. They are subtle. You like this person, you love this person, but they just don't make you feel good. You feel angry constantly. And this one of purposeful distancing from affection or intimate connection. You find yourself delaying when you are outside. You stay out longer. When they arrive, you feel like going out. When they're out, then you are comfortable in. Those are signs of a broken relationship. All right. How to repair it? I'm trying to rush through this. You just write them down. And number one is acknowledgement. Acknowledge two things. Acknowledge the problem, that there is a problem, and this is the problem. And acknowledge the pain. This is very important. Acknowledge the problem. Babe, we have been distancing ourselves. I noticed that, you no longer want to spend time with me like we are used to. Acknowledge the problem. There's a difference between acknowledging the problem and accusing the other person of being the problem. Acknowledging the other person as the problem. No. Acknowledging that this is not the way it used to be. And without laying blame, it's okay to say, this is not where we were. This is not how we used to be. And you must also watch yourself, that you are not unconsciously laying blame, or you're not, without saying it, but in your mind, it's your fault. Don't come that way. That's judging. And immediately the person becomes defensive and will not even acknowledge there's a problem, because acknowledging the problem the way you presented it is agreeing that he is the problem. Acknowledge the problem. Also acknowledge the pain. When you decide to repair it, don't think of it from how that person affects you. You think of from your own end. You that have decided, let's repair this. Think of from your own end towards that person. So that will keep you from judgment. Because what are you doing wrong is what you should focus on. What are you doing wrong? It's what I just said. Now most people don't hear it. In my experience, 20-something years of ministering to people who are in relationships, they don't hear this part. Somebody just flies off like that. What are you doing wrong? Not what is he doing wrong. What are you doing wrong is the question. And if both of you will ask that question, you are on your way. If both of you do, sincerely say, what am I doing wrong? That marriage has a great chance of being salvaged and repaired and blossoming beyond even the way it was at the beginning. Acknowledging the pain now It's not acknowledging your own pain. It's acknowledging the pain you may have caused. So you say things like, I recognize that my words may have hurt you. Tell me a bit more about how it made you feel. Now you're trying to understand the problem, but you have acknowledged the pain and acknowledge that there's a problem. Now you want to learn. All right, that's a good way to say it. Acknowledge that my coming home may have hurt you. My coming home late may have hurt you. Acknowledge that the way I said that thing may have hurt you. Tell me a little bit how it makes you feel, and allow that person to speak. All right, you are acknowledging. It does a lot. It lifts a whole load of weight. One of the, I will put it at about 40-50% of the problem is, there was something my wife and I for a long time, it happens both ways. So for a long time, she kept saying, I don't spend enough time, in the room with her. I'm always, because I've grew up in the sitting room. I'm a sitting room person. All my life, before I got married, I live in the sitting room. That's why I feel like that's why it's called a living room, right? So I felt like this is the living room. That's the bedroom. You go to the bedroom to sleep, and then you stay in the living room. And growing up, I could spend a whole day that I didn't go into the bedroom. I'm in the living room. I sleep off in the living room, wake up, watch a movie, and do some things. Everything, living room. And then I go back to the bedroom to sleep. For most of them, I would have slept in the living room, then they wake me up and I go to sleep in the bedroom. Then I get married. And my wife is the opposite. She would live in the bedroom is a living room for her, and her couch is the bed. And she can stay there and walk all day. And I said, you don't spend enough time with me. And I'm talking about acknowledging. I couldn't even acknowledge that that was an issue. And we went to see one of our mentors, and he spoke to me. That was the first time he occurred to me, okay, this is an issue for her, So acknowledge acknowledge what that person is trying to communicate. My wife is the firstborn in her family, and so firstborns like to direct things and run things, and they give everybody instruction. And when they get married, it's very easy for them as well to include their husbands in that distribution of assignments, and so and feeling angry or offended when what they said is not carried out exactly like that, or one day my wife came into the room and just turned on the light or turned off the light, that kind of thing, and she didn't even think about it, that this is someone who is my head, right? This is like my father, because that's why the girl's father will take her hand over to the priest, and the priest will take that hand and give it to the husband. When they began to do that, the idea the church was trying to convey was that the father says, God, the priest representing God, you gave me this daughter, I have led her, I have helped her, I have trained her, now I'm returning her to you. And then the priest representing God will take that daughter and now say, okay, now here's a new father for you. And then now gives her to the husband. The husband now is to protect her. Husband now is to care for her. Husband now is to love her the way her father did. But then she's now supposed to honor him and respect him and regard him. All this is in scriptures. Call him Lord, Bible even says. Now imagine walking into a room where your dad is, assuming that your dad is in the living room and both of you are there, and he turned on the lights and you wanted it dark and you just turned it off. Or you wanted it, but as I'm saying it now, maybe you're beginning to feel, oh, that's true, it's not right. But it's common. And in a way, the way she was brought up, she's a firstborn, she runs things. So before she goes off, turns off all the lights and stuff. And that was just one of several. So I kept on feeling like, like I'm living under a dominion in my own home. And it was also a difficult thing to get her to acknowledge it, at least to me. And that's the important thing. You see, I could acknowledge it Generally, theoretically, if you said, oh, should men spend time with their wives, quality time with their wives in the room, and the room should not just be for physical intimacy, it should be where you guys can separate yourselves and be together and discuss and laugh without all the influence of the kids and all the other people in the family. I would say theoretically, yes. But to acknowledge to her that I recognize that my not being in the room have hurt you and that it was wrong. So acknowledging that. That's a lot more difficult for a lot of people. But that's the one that brings freedom. That's the one that heals. When I acknowledge that, that heals her. So you need to vocalize that acknowledgement. It's not enough to just to say it or to think so. You have to vocalize it. This is so powerful that I almost want to spend all the time on this, because I think 50% of it is resolved. Because that person will feel heard. That person will feel like, yes, you may still make this mistake as you go on, but you know the problem. You have heard me, and now you are working on it. Now you are learning to change, but you have heard me. It has to be vocalized. You have to say it. Say, I recognize that I have been treating you like a constituent in my local government, and it for whatever reason, because maybe I'm firstborn or something, but I recognize. You vocalize it to the person. Sometimes people find it easy to vocalize it to the counselor, vocalize it to the mentor, vocalize it to the person trying to work with them, but not to the person, not to their spouse. Vocalize it to that spouse. I recognize that my words may have hurt you. I recognize that the way I've been acting like I'm in charge may have hurt you. I recognize that my not spending time in the bedroom may have hurt you. Tell me how it makes you feel. Allow that person to pour out. Acknowledge the problem, acknowledge the pain. The second step will be apology. Apology should have certain elements in it. Number one, what I regret. Number two, what I have learned. Number three, what I'm doing to make sure it does not happen again. Apologies should have those three elements. Once again, number one, what I regret. Number two, what I have learned. And number three, what I am doing to make sure it does not happen again. Let me give you wrong ways. 6 wrong ways to apologize. Very quickly. I'm sorry. Nonsense. I'm sorry is nonsense. That's why I'm sorry has no weight. Stop apologizing by saying I'm sorry. Allow it to your spouse. Let me give you an example. Somebody comes to me and says, Pastor Noel, you stepped on my toe. I'm sorry. Pastor Noel, you were late for the meeting, and I waited for like 3 hours for you, and you were, oh, I'm sorry. So let's go on. No, that person didn't feel like you were sorry. So I'm sorry is the wrong way to apologize. Another wrong way to apologize is, I'm sorry you were hurt. That's nonsense. So you're not sorry you did it. You are sorry it hurt me. In other words, what you did is justified. Your only pain is that I was hurt. No. Another wrong way to apologize. I was really busy and didn't mean to hurt you. That's not an apology. You didn't mean to hurt me, but you did. So apologize. So remember again, what I regret. So I regret that I kept you waiting for 3 hours for me. And I understand how that would have made you feel. That's what I've learned. I understand that must have been very painful, And I assure you that won't happen again. That's an apology. What's your part in this? That's not an apology. Some people say, yes, I came late, but you were supposed to send the car, you didn't send the car. You were supposed to. So, in other words, yes, this happened, but you have a part in the reason why it happened. What's your part in what happened? That's not an apology. Another wrong way to apologize. I apologize. I was a little unskillful. A little. Don't use verbs that demean the pain of the other person. It doesn't take the hurt you have caused seriously. Don't use words. Don't say, I apologize, I was a little unskillful. I apologize, I was a little late. Sorry, I was a little put off. No, don't use words that reduce the hurt of the other person. You're telling that person, you shouldn't be this angry because it was just tiny stuff I did. No. So don't use such adjectives. Don't use, I'm sorry, I was a little late. I'm sorry, it's a tiny, for that tiny mistake. No. Don't describe the mistake. How tiny you think it is does not matter. How it affected the other person is what matters. And that's, you're trying to use the apology to as a balm to heal the other person. So what matters is what is happening on the other end, not what you think about it. There are different reasons why what you think is not a big issue might be a big issue to somebody else. So avoid words like little, a little bit, tiny. The sixth way not to apologize. I was under a lot of stress. I apologize. That's called defensive apologizing. You are given the reason why to make it okay that you did what you did, but then you apologize. No. Once again, apology. Let's say somebody shouted at another person. Raised your voice and shouted. Acknowledge that you did that. Don't say, but no, I didn't raise my voice. No, sir. That's true. I recognize that the way I raised my voice may have hurt you. And if that person has never told you how you make them feel, tell me how that makes you feel. That's acknowledgement. But apology for that same action will be, I completely understand that I regret the fact that I raised my voice at you. I sincerely regret that, And I've learned now that gets you, that turns you off. And I've learned it's wrong. You see, not just, don't make it sound like it's just that person that has a problem. No, I've learned it's wrong to do that. I've learned it's wrong for me as your spouse to raise my voice at you. And I'm going to do all I can to make sure that it doesn't happen again. That's a proper apology. All right. Somebody say I hear. Number 3, we're going on a journey. Number 3 is learning. So the first one is acknowledgement, and then apology. Then learn. Ask yourself, what have you learned about this issue? Have you gone to read a book? So your wife says you don't spend enough time. I'm going to keep using those two things. Don't spend enough time. That was 2 major issues that my wife and I faced. Me feeling like I was living with my mom instead of with my daughter. A man is supposed to feel like he's living, like his wife is his daughter and friend, not mother and friend. If the wife is supposed to feel like the husband is her father and friend. Father and friend. All right. So my feeling like I was living with my mom, who happens to also be my friend, who is there to look at what I've done, whether I did it right, did I wash the place right, did I do that, and then lay it out for me what I need to do. Who looks in and says, we are going to go and that house you went to check, and where's the room, what's this, and then all of that, and trying to line me up and make sure that I got it right. So I called it the firstborn syndrome. One major issue my wife had in the marriage was my extrovertedness and the tendency for me to go on with life and enjoy myself and leave her on the sideline. And she's in the room and I don't even go there. I'm like, you do you, I do me. Okay, you are the introvert, you're enjoying what you're doing. I'm the extrovert, I'm enjoying what I'm doing on this side. So I'm going to keep using those two examples. All right. So learning. Now, have I gone to study? Have I gone to read a book? Have I gone to talk to someone about what she is complaining about? And she says, have I gone to read a book about this firstborn syndrome? Is there anything like that? Is it online? What are the signs of it? What am I doing that is conveying that? Is there a book on it? You see, that's the next thing. Learn what works for that person. So learn generally about the situation, then also now talk to the person, learn from the person what will work for you. Can you point out to me whenever I act in ways that give you that feeling? Can you send me a chat whenever I'm so separated and far from you and you need me beside you and I'm not giving you the impression that you matter enough for me to leave this living room and come stay with you? Can you help me understand when I'm doing that? When you think I'm too far away, can you help me understand? So I'm learning. It's my learning process. I've already acknowledged it. I'm not trying to say, this thing doesn't make sense. So you point it out to me because I don't get it. That's not the point. That's not the issue. I've acknowledged it. I have apologized for it properly. Now I am learning to change. So help me on this journey. Point out to me when I'm moving in that direction. And then, so one of the things you should learn is what should you do in the future? You may not be doing it right now, but what do you need to become? What do you need to do in order to be this person that she needs you to be or that he needs you to be? Number 4 is an invitation to repair what is broken. What do we mean by that? Now you have learned. Now you are learning. All right. Invite each other into that your process to help repair what is broken. Part of it is what I've said already. Show me where I'm missing it. Show me not where I'm missing it. You need to let the person know that you know where you are missing it. But help me on the journey. And then the other person is asking you to help her on her own journey and all that. And be sincerely willing to walk with each other to repair what is broken. This is very critical. That invitation needs to happen. That's why your university will send you a letter of admission. You don't just get up and say, I'm going to be an engineer. Then I'm going to go to this school and start. There has to be an invitation to come learn. That invitation tells them that you have started. You may not become an engineer, but now you're on grade 1. You're on, now you're on grade 2, or you're on year 2. Now you're on year 3, and they can see your progress. And even though you are not yet an engineer, they can celebrate you. The school is not angry with you for not being an engineer after 1 year. They're not angry with you for not being an engineer after 2 years, because there was an invitation to become. And that needs to happen both ways. Both of you need to invite each other to become and accept the invitation of the other person to become, and now begin to move. And you can track your progress. And that progress becomes the joy, even though you have not become ultimately what you need to be. So because for any repair to happen, both of you need to be invested. That's why, so when you get that admission letter from the school, you now become a student and you are learning and you are growing, and the school is happy with you each step of the way, right? You are invested in it. So that invitation is the beginning of that investment. Let's move on. I need to rush this. I need to move faster. All right, number 5, start dating again. Go out at least once a week. I have found once a week to be the barest minimum. And it's not always easy. I have to admit that. But it has to now become a must do, you know. After this teaching, somewhere down the road, by God's grace, I'm going to start. We're going to start a fellowship, a couples fellowship, where we just meet online all over the world, and just, it can be 1 hour, just gist, just talk, and then hold each other accountable, you know, to do these things. All right. So start dating again. Go out at least once a week. All right. Number 6, make your relationship priority. How? Checking with one another. Checking with one another. I read about a guy, Kenneth Copeland, not a guy. I apologize for that. He's a mentor to me, you know. And he was talking about, he has been married now for decades. I think he's been married now for over 50 years or about that. So those are people I follow, you know, those are people I am hanging around. Okay, so, and he said every single night, no matter where he is in the world, every single night, the last thing he does is, the last set of things he does, he was talking about his routine, is he picks up his phone. If he's not at home, picks up his phone and calls his wife and have a final conversation and say good night to her before she goes off to sleep. Then he turns to God and has a conversation with God, and then he goes to sleep. He said he has done that every day for the last 50 or so years. And that stayed with me, you know. And I made a decision, I'm going to start doing that. Because I travel a lot. I travel on ministry, and I'm sad to say, I've not been like that. All right. So, watch this. He said if he's at home, before the wife sleeps off, he goes to her and says, good night, sweetheart. Gives her a peck on the cheek. And and if he needs to go and pray, he can go to the other room. If he wants to sleep himself, he sleeps off himself. Checking with one another. Share what happened to you first with each other. That's prioritizing it. Share what happened to you first. You know how you used to feel when you found out that your friend got a visa to go somewhere very lovely, or your friend got, you know, a breakthrough. Let's say that won a lottery or something, and it's a trip abroad, something really significant, and then you are hearing it from another friend. You know how it makes you feel like your relationship is not priority. That's what I mean by making your relationship priority. So 2 ways you can do that is checking with each other 2-3 times a day if you're not together. And if you're together, check and say, how are you? Are you okay? You're doing well. Hang around each other. And also, when things happen to you, let that person be the first person you tell about it. Number 7, let go of expectations of what your partner should be doing. If you have a need or request, ask. Your spouse is not a mind reader. Let go of expectations. He should know that he's supposed to be doing this. Shouldn't he know that he is supposed to? Shouldn't she know that, you know, every man needs this thing at least 2-3 times a week? Doesn't she know that? Doesn't he know that he's supposed to buy me flowers? Let go of expectations of what your partner should be doing. If you have a need or request, ask. Your spouse is not a mind reader. I'll move on from there. Number 8, plan a weekly meeting to discuss what was agreed to. A business meeting. What needs to be done. The chores in the house and the expectations and all that we just, like what we just talked about now. Plan a business meeting different from the date night. Some people make them, and I did this for a while, and I'm really, you know, I feel like I'm embarrassed to say, that I did this for a while, where the date itself, the date night, was to discuss issues like this. It was a business meeting. I will take my wife out on it and I'll be like, sweetheart, why are we having issues in this area, in this area, in this area? You find that you end up dreading. If your spouse does that, you end up dreading that date night because you're going to have a list of all your faults, you know. I remember one day we went to Revolving Restaurant in Nairobi. And I was like, okay, sweetheart, you know, we had the lovely meal. It was fun all the way till I brought up issues that we needed to address. Separate the two of them. Have a date night that is all fun and play. The same way, you know, when we come together, play is different from pray. You don't play. All right? You play and you pray. Separate things. All right? So, you know, play together, pray together, eat together, grow together and all that. All right? Have you noticed how they don't seem to fit too well into each other? To just go from play to pray or pray to play. So have a separate business meeting. When you sit down, it can be on your bed before you sleep off. It doesn't have to be another date. It can be while you're on the dining table. But have a day. Say, okay, Monday in the morning or Monday at night, we'll talk about how I'm doing with the things you said, the things, the expectations you mentioned, how I'm doing with the things I'm learning and I'm trying to change in. It's like my score sheet, my exam sheet. You know, you assess me, I assess you, and we tell each other how we're doing. If there's something that's been going on in the house, you raise it. If there's something that, a new attitude that I'm bringing in that is not working for you, you bring it up there. Not at the date, not on the date night. The date night is for us to have fun. Come back home and like ready to do and undo. Number 9, say thank you for even the little things. Say thank you for even the little things. I can't stress that enough, particularly for melancholies. Sanguines enjoy saying thank you. It's, you know, they're very relational. Oh, thank you, I appreciate that. Thank you, I appreciate that. Oh, that was very kind of you. You know, that was very nice. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. You know, melancholies are very more self-absorbed than the other temperaments. So they tend to not recognize what is being done for them. They are focused on how it has affected them. So let's say that you closed the door and you didn't bang it. And before now, you used to bang the door. And then the first time your spouse says, oh, you know, stop banging this door. It's affecting me. And then you went out and she was ready to bang it. And then you close it gently. And then when you come and that your spouse comes back and say, thanks, sweetheart, for not banging that door. That's what I mean by little things. Not just when they buy you a car or buy you a house. Little things. Thanks for not banging that door. I notice your efforts to change, to be better. And I appreciate that. You know. And vice versa. You know. Look for the little things. Note the little improvements. And verbalize them and thank the person. Thank them for the little things they do. Number 10, hold hands and hug more. Hold hands and hug more. Forget about all this, oh, I'm not a touchy person. Hold hands and hug more. These are, what I'm sharing with you are things that have been tested over decades of people testing it on themselves, and also scientifically, sociologists and psychologists have sat down and examined several relationships and individuals. And they will tell you the same thing. Marriages where the couples hold hands. They just sit down, they always locate each other when they sit. If the man sits this way, the lady is coming in, she gravitates towards sitting beside him. And before one or two things are said, their hands are already held like this. No. That relationship has a difficult, you will die trying to break that relationship. And you won't be able to. As simple as that is, hold hands, hug more. You're stepping out of the house. Hey, sweetheart. She's just coming in from outside. Oh, sweetheart. Number 11, ditch the routine and have some fun. Allow spontaneity. So add sprinkle some spontaneous moments of fun, spontaneous moments. Sanguines, once again, don't have an issue with this. If the husband is the sanguine, they don't have an issue with this. But if the husband is the melancholy one, then you need, because the man should lead it, all right? You need, as a man, to put that in. And if you are the lady, learn, yes, you may not do it all the time. So when your man says, hey, let's go and watch a movie, don't go, oh, I didn't plan for it. Don't start thinking of all the head tie you need to put on and the makeup you need to put on. Spontaneous. Just get up there, wash your face, put up some powder. Say, one day I told my wife, let's go and watch a movie. And she just started running her mind through, which is normal for a lady. How she has to redo her face and all that. And I said, sweetheart, you know what? You're just going to be in the car. I drive you there. Then we go straight into the movie theater. It's dark. Nobody's going to see you. And then we step out. Even with all of that, she's still made up. Okay. And I understand that it's feminine. It's the lady thing to do. But at least she got up, and in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, she had made up. And we got there and the movie had closed. Because we spent a lot of time, preparing to go and all of that. But the fact that she stepped out, that's the funny thing about it. The fact that she stepped out with me and went there. I didn't even feel bad that the movie had closed. I felt so good that she decided to go out with me spontaneously. Ditch the routine. Have times you ditch the routine and have some fun. Lastly, and this is not going to rub some people the right way, see a therapist. Go for psychological checkup. People don't have a problem with physiological checkups. They say, yes, Father. They say, I need to go check. I can't feel anything wrong with me, but I need to go for a checkup and have someone just look at me, check internally and see what I'm not seeing, so that I can have enough time to deal with it or prepare for it or, address it before it becomes a problem. And then if there is a problem, go to a doctor. So you go to a doctor for two things: to solve an existing problem and to just generally check up to know that you are okay. When it comes to psychological things, like relationship, or sociological things like relationship and marriage and all that, we need to do the same thing. You don't have to wait till your marriage is broken. You don't have to wait till there's a problem. From time to time, have a psychologist or therapist that you trust, and go see them and talk about the ways you guys are acting and feeling and all that. They can spot potential problems by their training a mile away if you get a good one. So go see them. So even the things that are not necessarily wrong, you can make it a part of your marriage. Go see them, even over things that are not necessarily wrong. Make it a part. It's okay, once a year or once in 6 months, we'll go talk to a therapist and see, what we're doing, what are the potential dangers, or sometimes also you find out that there's some things that they will get you guys talking about because of their training that will bring out some hidden things that you may not have noted. The same way you go to see a physical doctor, they have equipment that they can use to see the bone, see the heart, see, and all of that. A good psychologist, a good physiotherapist, a psychotherapist has been trained to be able to assess things and see what is not obvious to an untrained eye. So go see them from time to time. You will have a long marriage in Jesus' name. When I said thank you, okay, Father, it was because God told me to pray when I'm done. A very simple prayer, but my faith is going out for those of you who are not in relationships to find someone you can do this with. Those of you that are in relationships that are not married, to begin to do this now and know if you can live with this person, because if you can do this while you are, if you can do what we talked about today before marriage, you can be certain that you and that person will probably be there forever. You'll be married and be married forever. Why? Because everything that comes up you can solve with this. And then if that person is unwilling to move in these directions with you, then you have a problem and you may want to consider. And if you are married already, I want to pray for you that God will give you guys the strength to be able to do. You know, Jesus talked about something. He said, no man can take my life from me. But he said, I have the power to lay it down and the power to pick it up again. And I recently I've had to think about that. That sometimes we think we can't do something, but God can supply the power to do it. It is He that works in us both to will and to do of His good pleasure. So Jesus said, I'm going to go to the cross. I'm going to suffer all of this shame and all of this pain. But there is a power to do it. I have the power to lay it down. So this, and he referred to the laying down of his life as needing power. The same way the raising from the dead needed power. We all know about the power to raise from the dead. But the power to lay down his life, the power to do what is right. He came here to lay his life down. And he was saying the doing of what I came to do requires power as much as the raising from the dead requires power. I hope you got what I'm saying. So sometimes we feel like we are not going to be able to do something when all we need to do is say, God, if you can raise the dead, you can give me power to do this. So let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, I pray for everyone under the sound of my voice. For those who are not yet in a relationship, I pray you will help them find someone that they can do life with and practice these things with. For those who are in a relationship and not yet married, I pray that you will help them begin to infuse these things into their relationship and give them the power to do it. And those who are married also, I pray that you will give them the power to do it. You will enable them to do it so that you alone will get the glory. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Hallelujah. All right, I'm going to release you to go into your groups and discuss. And what did you learn about this? What are the things you learned? And who are you going to share it with? All right, let's go into our groups.